Alright, so here's the situation. I was all set to go see A Quiet Place Part 2. I got into an advanced screening, but then, suddenly, without warning, it was cancelled, as was the worldwide release of the movie itself. Why? The coronavirus, that's why. And we are now at the point where the entire city of Los Angeles is pretty much on lockdown. Movie releases are getting delayed, movie theaters are closed, can't even go to the movies. So I was inspired to make the best of a bad situation. Since I won't be able to talk about new movies for at least a few more weeks, why not just make videos about movies I love? You know, movies I grew up with that I've been wanting to make videos about anyway. So let's start off with Coraline. So Coraline came out in February of 2009, so a little over 11 years ago, and it's the first movie from Laika Animation Studios. Their purpose? To bring stop-motion animation back into mainstream movies again, and I dare say they succeeded. I remember seeing the trailers for this movie and being like, I want to go see that right now. I was in 8th grade at the time. So in this movie, we have Coraline Jones, voiced by Dakota Fanning. Her family just moved into a new house in Oregon, so she's trying to adjust to her new life, but not really taking to it too well. It's boring, her parents are being neglectful. Then, one night, she discovers a door in the house that leads to a parallel world. Yeah, the world looks like the same house, but her parents are nicer, it's more colorful, it's more exciting. Only thing is, everyone there has buttons for eyes. Which, if that's not creepy, I don't know what is. But you know, at first Coraline doesn't seem to mind because everything in this world is just so fun, and the movie goes on from there. Let's talk about it. Cause yeah, the reason I chose this movie to make a video about is because it's one of my favorite movies, period. I love this movie to death. I mean, where do I even begin? There's so many things I can talk about that illustrate why I love this movie. I mean, the story itself, it's like a twisted version of Alice in Wonderland, kind of, which is funny because I also say that about Spirited Away. Anytime there's a story about a girl who finds another world that's all fantastic and wonderful, it'll instantly remind me of Alice in Wonderland. But let's talk about the art and style in this movie because, like I said, Laika is the animation studio that brought stop-motion animation back into mainstream cinema. Sure, the characters look a little cartoonish. You know, Coraline has a big head over a stick figure body. But you know what? It's an animated movie. It's a cartoon, so you can let it slide. The same way I let slide that the girls in Frozen have praying mantis eyes. But when you see this other world and how vibrant and colorful it is, this movie was actually shot in 3D. So when you saw it in theaters in 3D, it really popped out at you. In fact, there are a couple parts in this film where it really showcases the 3D. You know, something will come out at the screen and you're like, whoa, 3D! It feels like a theme park ride, but that's awesome. I love it in movies when they feel like theme park rides. Why? Because it's super fun. Now, Coraline Jones herself is a great main character for this movie. Because sure, she's smart and resourceful, but she's still a kid. A lot of times in movies, you'll notice when they have a main character who's a kid, they'll be acting like adults, you know, making smart, responsible choices. But not in this movie, man. Coraline is completely a kid. The first few times she visits this new world, she's having a blast. Then we have Coraline's new neighbor, Wybie, or Wyborn Lovat, voiced by Robert Bailey Jr., who is, and there's no getting around this, he is kind of a weird dude. The cool thing is, I forgot to mention this, but this movie's based off a book by Neil Gaiman. And it's one of those things where the movie embellishes the book's story, because the book itself is pretty short. I've read it. In the book, there's no Wybie. The setting is different, it's not in Oregon. Just the story is more or less the same. But you know, I can forgive this movie for embellishing the book. Why? Well, a couple reasons. First of all, I saw it before I read the book. And second of all, and feel free to disagree with me on this, but it improves the story of the book. Or at least that's my personal experience. The book itself is fine, it's a nice story. The movie made it an experience. Now, the brains behind this new world that Coraline stumbles into is the other mother, who's voiced by Terry Hatcher, as is Coraline's regular mother in this movie. And man, this character just does a great job at just luring you into her trap. You know, her seducing motherly voice with just a little tinge of creepy. You know, with lines like, would you go fetch your father? I bet he's hungry as a pumpkin by now. You mean my other father? Your better father, dear. He's out in the garden. You're just like, ooh, okay. It went there. I mean, the movie is good in the first half, you know, it's the story building up, but then about halfway through, we get to the reason why this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Because about halfway through this movie, it becomes a horror movie. Yeah, the best way to describe this movie is that it's a horror movie for kids. The dark side of this new world starts peeking its head out when the other mother invites Coraline to stay there forever, under one condition. She has to sew buttons in her eyes. Ooh. And from there, Coraline has to learn how to escape this world and the clutches of the other mother. The story escalates from there, the animation and the art takes a creepy turn, the place starts becoming, you know, more decrepit, and it is just awesome. I mean, honestly, I can't think of any movie that is like this movie. I mean, Alice in Wonderland isn't a horror movie. Spirited Away isn't a horror movie. This other world is threatening to keep Coraline there forever and sew buttons into her eyes. I don't want to talk about spoilers in case you haven't seen this movie yet, in which case I say it's on Netflix right now, go watch it. And of course, I cannot talk about Coraline without talking about its score. The score in Coraline is one of my favorite movie scores of all time. It was done by French composer Bruno Coulet, and like this movie itself, it is incredibly unique because not only do odd instruments take lead roles like harp, sometimes banjo, but you have a choir in the score, and the language they sing in is not unknown language. It's essentially gibberish, which sounds very strange, yeah, but it totally works in the vibe and atmosphere of this movie. The very first scene in the film, the opening credits scene, there's no dialogue, there is something happening, but it's the score that you take away from it, because the theme is so melodic and hummable. And from there, the movie goes on and the music sticks with ya. I have the soundtrack, I listen to it, and I'm always happy when I do. So in the end, like I said, Coraline is one of my favorite movies ever made. I love the story to death, I love the characters, I love the voice acting, I love the art style, I love the score. This is one of those movies where I pretty much know every line. I got it memorized, because I've watched it so many times, and I'm just never gonna stop loving this movie. It will always be Laika's best. I mean, Kubo came close, it did. But at this point, Coraline wins just because of nostalgia, which can be a powerful thing. Again, if you haven't seen Coraline, it's on Netflix right now, go watch it. You won't regret it. So Coraline, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.